Hey guys, Deslater Magic here, and I'm going to try to explain bitcoins and other cryptocurrencies to everybody, because that's what you do on a Magic the Gathering channel, between product releases. Also, MTGOX was a Japanese Bitcoin exchange, but before that, it was going to be the Magic the Gathering online exchange for cards. So, there you go. So, what are bitcoins? They're a currency. They're just like US dollars, euros, Canadian dollars, whatever. Now, what makes them valuable? Well, what makes US dollars valuable? Not the fact that they're backed by gold anymore, I'll tell you that. But people like to trip over that way too much. Basically, it has value because everybody agrees that that's what we're going to use. There's no better alternative, and that's that. Now, you look at Zimbabwe, I want to say Argentina, I might be wrong about that, Venezuela, occasionally Russia. People will completely lose any kind of faith in their currency and just say, hey, we accept euros, we accept US dollars. Yeah, that's not what country we're in, but guess what? Hey, currently in Venezuela, because of whatever's going on with their economy, they're almost exclusively accepting bitcoins. So before we get into like philosophy and economics and, oh, what makes anything valuable and, I will say the US dollar, it's tied to a country that's not likely to go Venezuela's route. Same with the euro. It's in a ton of different countries. It's so widespread, it's not likely to go down, except for right specifically now. Thanks, Greece. You guys are great. So what gives bitcoins value? Because back in, '09 or whatever, when they were really catching on, people were just saying, oh, it's a new thing that was invented. It's worth money because we said it is. Yeah, that sounds like a scam. It's stupid, but it is quite literally the opposite of a scam. It by its nature cannot be. Here's why. Nobody runs it. Nobody owns it. Nobody controls it. Nobody operates it. It just runs itself. And that sounds completely insane and unstable, but I'll get into why that's not true. The most inherent value to Bitcoin is how it works. I can be a 12-year-old in America with, I'll say, a poor credit score. Don't think too hard about that. And without giving anybody my actual name, I can take $15 equivalent of Bitcoin and send it to a person in Switzerland. Nobody can stop me and nobody knows that I did it. Now, even better, on the receiving end, nobody can say, oh, I'm going to file a chargeback. I didn't receive my funds. Or, oh, I'm going to mark the payment as fraudulent and some big bank's going to reverse it. Or, oh, the World Bank doesn't like my country, so we're going to stop all foreign wire transfers. No, if I want to, within 10 minutes, send money to somebody in the world, I can do it. All I have to do is install the Bitcoin app, or most people don't do that these days. Use an online wallet or exchange, whatever you want, online bank account, basically. So just think about that. I mean, think about the inherent value in that. Unfortunately, that does attract shady types like drug dealers and criminal people and whoever else, but, so does like the internet. You can't take the whole internet and throw it out because of just a couple bad people on it. Same with like the Tor browser and the Tor network. Oh, it's used by people trading illegal stuff and drug lords and this and that. Yeah, but the majority of people using it are just trying to get past censorship in their country or use the internet without being tracked. So yeah, it gets a bad reputation because the press likes to take a dump all over anything, and it's, oh, what's harming you and your family and your kids right now? Let's, make up some ridiculous story about how Bitcoins are going to kill your whole family. Oh, did you hear Bitcoins cause cancer? Oh my God. So now the other thing that people say is, oh, all the money's all digital. That's stupid. That's unsafe. That's the dumbest thing ever. Well, guess what? Pretty much all US dollars are digital. I think it's like 95% or something outrageous like that. Paper money barely exists. Everything's just digits in a database. Yeah. So now the other thing that's making people have trust in Bitcoins, because trust equals value, because if you distrust it, you won't use it. It's the fact that every, 2.5 years-ish, something like that. I think it's on a different time scale. It's stretched out, whatever. The amount of Bitcoins generated every 10 minutes gets cut in half. It has already happened twice. It went to 50 to 25 to the current 12.5, and it won't change for another 2+ years. So in order to remain profitable for the people maintaining the network and mining Bitcoins, as it were, for them to be able to pay the electric bills, because it's very electricity heavy, the price basically has to double. So it's like a stock splitting almost. So in the next 50 years, it's guaranteed to have an upward trend. And the number of people who are like, oh, that's cool, I'm going to invest in it, are artificially driving it up even higher. That's because trust in it, people buying into the system, drives it up, drives up the price, and people selling off Bitcoins for US dollars drive it down. So an upward trend causes an upward trend, which then people see it and invest more, which causes an upward trend. It's a good investment over the long term. Very, very, very much so. And it's unhackable. Nobody can, I was going to say nobody could steal Bitcoins, but there have been giant thefts of Bitcoins. If somebody gets a hold of what's called your wallet file, you're in trouble. They basically have just grabbed your wallet in real life. They now own your Bitcoins. That's why you might want to encrypt your wallet file. So everybody does that these days. There have been almost no high-profile thieves or thefts or thieves, whatever. People are a little bit wiser and more paranoid because it's been enough years. So can you name another asset that's perfectly safe? You can transfer it anywhere in the world. Nobody can stop you. It's anonymous. It has an upward value trend that's almost guaranteed, and it absolutely cannot be stolen under any circumstances. Well, as long as you're not a careless idiot. I really can't name anything else like that. So Bitcoin is basically the best currency that exists. So why is it so hard to do a fraudulent transaction, or for somebody to like change the value of a transaction, or do a double spend attack where they like take the money out twice? Well, it all comes down to math. That's why these are called cryptocurrencies. And I use the plural term because there's Bitcoins, and then there was Litecoins, which came afterwards. They were lighter, basically. I believe like the database of all transactions was like designed to be smaller or something like that. I don't know. Well, and then there was like this cryptocurrency, that cryptocurrency, because if you're the first person to invent it and you write the code for it, you name it, and you start the blockchain, and then you pre-mine it, as they say, like you just mined 10,000 of your own coin, then you get people to hop on it, you're rich because it's going to start at, 1/100th of a penny or something. And then if it goes up to even, 10 cents, you're crazy rich. It's like $1 million. So that's why everybody started their own damn coin. But the problem is nobody will jump on it just because you say, here's an alternative. Oh, what's better about it than Bitcoins? Nothing. Fantastic. So they have ones with like built-in anonymity, built-in encryption, and, just different features where people are like, okay, that's an improvement. I'll use it. Okay. So you've got Aetherium, you've got Zcash, you've got, I could name them all, but there's like at least 30 major ones that are actually in use. But they're all basically meta currencies of Bitcoin, which means like they're a fractional percentage of them and they don't vary that much. So if Bitcoins go up, they go up. If Bitcoins go down, they go down. That's pretty much just how it works. So you could almost consider them just a slightly different branch of Bitcoins that are very closely tied to it. But what makes it so perfect? Well, every 10 minutes on average, a new block is formed. And a block is just a whole chunk of transactions that happen. So it's just, in the last 10 minutes, I sent money to this person, they sent it to them, then them, okay, got it. And then once a block is formed, it cannot be altered. It is done, it is solid, and it is public knowledge. So how would you do a fraudulent transaction? Besides, hacking somebody's computer and directly stealing their wallet, or remote controlling their computer and opening the Bitcoin client and sending yourself money. Those are options, but as far as, anything past that, it's impossible. The best way I can explain it is to do a fraudulent transaction, like I just owned all your Bitcoins. I am now the owner. You just transferred them all to me. I would have to outprocess the entire rest of the network. That is impossible. It can't happen. There are not enough computers on planet Earth by any stretch of the imagination. You could literally take every computer that exists and attempt to outprocess the current Bitcoin network, and you won't even come close. There's these things called application-specific integrated circuits, or ASICs, which I think they're 30,000 times faster than the average i7. So good luck with that. There are hundreds of thousands of them, or maybe tens of thousands of them out there. I'm not really sure on the volume. But no company is going to produce or sell you enough to do what they call a 51% attack. So if you can outprocess the rest of the network, then you get to form the block, and you could write the code to put a fraudulent transaction in the block. But since that is just not going to happen, the network is too damn big, it just can't happen. There you go. It's perfect. So let's get on to mining Bitcoins / maintaining the network. They're the same thing, because that's what it is. That's what the incentive is. So first it was CPUs, which is, the central processing unit of your desktop. It does all the calculations and the math. And then somebody got clever and found a way to mine Bitcoins and other currencies with graphics cards, because they have more individual processing units, either stream processors or CUDA cores, or however they want to calculate it. And they're better at what they call floating point operations by a huge factor. Like, it's not even close. I think they're like 100 times faster than the average CPU. And honestly, depending upon the equation, a couple of them are like millions of times faster. So then people realized that the main Bitcoin calculation, the equation, could be done better with less RAM and more cores. So in rolls the application-specific integrated circuits, or ASICs. Yes, I know there was first FPGAs, but they're like the same damn thing. So they stick like however many thousand cores, I don't even know. I haven't looked up the hardware specs, and I don't get into chip design that much, shockingly. And almost no RAM, and ta-da, it's the magic Bitcoin miners. So then people are like, okay, this is crap, because a couple Chinese companies are making ASICs, and they found out that if they sell them to customers, it's actually more profitable to just keep them and turn them on. Oh, especially if you're the first one to do it, because then the difficulty doesn't go up. But the best way I can explain difficulty is it maintains the fact that no matter how many people are mining Bitcoins and maintaining the network and running equations in a loop, that approximately every 10 minutes a new block is formed. So if twice as many people start mining Bitcoins, then the difficulty will double, and it will take the average individual processor longer. So there's like allegedly 10 or less Chinese companies and individual millionaires and billionaires that are just holding the vast majority of hashing power. And that gives China the control over the network, basically. Because if they all got together, they could fraudulently steal Bitcoins. They never would. And I think enough ASICs have left their country that maybe a 51% attack is unrealistic. It's hard to say, though, but people didn't like that, and people didn't like that you couldn't just use a graphics card, which everybody had. I mean, if you have a gaming computer, you have a graphics card. So then they invented other currencies. I mean, almost all of the modern ones are graphics card heavy because ASICs are just a bad idea. They're crap. So they just made a, honestly, much less efficient way to mine Bitcoins and just called it something else. It uses a ton of RAM, and the fastest RAM in the world is on graphics cards. And it barely uses the core at all, so it's actually more power efficient, which is lovely. So the ideal machine for running these new ones is a graphics card, and you can never invent something better realistically. So there you go, problem solved. People can, pick up graphics cards, and it's good. That's why stuff like Aetherium caught on. But how does the math work? Well, it's actually really quite simple. I mean, I'm a math expert. Seriously, I used to be a math tutor in college. I also have a long history of winning math-related competitions, and I'm also a software programmer. It took me 3 days to figure out how this works. Yeah, so I'm going to give you the SparkNotes version. Multiplying two numbers together is trivially easy. A computer can do it. Taking a number and saying what two numbers can be multiplied to equal this number is incredibly hard, because the only way to do it is to brute force it. Just try every combination. Say 1 times 1, does that do it? 1 times 2, does that do it? And eventually you come up with the factors, so it's factorization. That basic concept where it's easy to go one direction but hard to go the other and go backwards through the equation, that is how all encryption and all passwords on the entire internet and every computer everywhere works. It's just a scaled up, much more complicated version with a much more complicated equation. But basically, a password, once it's been through what they call a hashing algorithm, you take the word, password 123, which, oh my God, that better not be your password. And then you run it through an equation, and it spits out we'll say 256 letter gibberish, and that's your hash. Now, if you were to take that hash and try to reverse it and say, let's go back through the equation, what was that password? What was the actual word? I've got the hashed version, that's lovely, but what was the originating actual word? You would have to try every single combination of letters and numbers until you match the result. So you would just run 1 through a hashing algorithm and see the result, and then compare them and say, okay, no, this isn't right. And so that's what they call brute forcing a password or brute forcing encryption. So Bitcoins were the same thing. So they take, I'm sure I'm going to massacre this because I'm not one of the original designers of Bitcoin, despite what everybody keeps saying. I mean, yes, I was big on the forums. Yes, I have a history of software design. I'm not Satoshi, okay? I did almost get on the project to help build Silk Road unknowingly, though. So there's that. Ross never got back to me, though, which is hilarious. Anyway, the way I understand it, there's a random number, and then something to do with the number of the block or the time of day or the time stamp that the last block was formed in, something timely and unique that's kind of generated on the fly. It's so that people can't go ahead 10 blocks, start pre-processing it, and then they'll find a working solution. No, it's the hashing algorithm contains data about the block directly before it, plus a random number, because otherwise, if it was all known data, you would come up with one hash over and over and over. And it adds just a bunch of crap together and then runs it through a hashing algorithm. And then that's where the difficulty comes in. You literally generate a number, like an actual numeric value, and the block is solved when somebody comes up with a number completely at random, completely with luck, that is below the current difficulty number. Or maybe it's above. It kind of depends on the algorithm. So right now the Bitcoin difficulty is 923,233,068,449. So I don't really even need to know the exact math behind this, but we'll just say you have to come up with a number higher than that. I thought it was like a decimal. It was like 0.00000815 or something like that. Maybe you invert it. Maybe the difficulty is just a representation. Whatever. It doesn't really matter how it really works. It's just you will randomly spit out a value above or below the set target. And just due to the sheer probability, because like even my rig personally is doing like 160 million calculations per second. I mean, the current speed of the entire Bitcoin network as a whole cumulatively is somewhere in the neighborhood of like, I believe it's 7 million trillion hashes per second. So that's a lot. Actually, I think it like had a huge dip lately. Maybe some stupid Chinese douchebag millionaire had their whole mine burned down again. That would be fantastic. The last time that it happened on the forums, we threw a little party. Did I mention we don't like China and their control over Bitcoins and what they've done with ASICs? I think it's like 5.6 billion hashes per second. So with that many hashing algorithms going off with a result, a numeric value every second, the difficulty is insane. Like it makes the Powerball look winnable by comparison. Although somebody will, quote, win it and solve a block about every 10 minutes. That's just how it works. So every couple days, I think it's like 18, 19 days, something like that, the difficulty will adjust based on the number of people mining at any given time, or for the entire last period on average, I believe it is. So if 10% more people started firing up an ASIC, there you go. The difficulty will jump 10% within 19 days or less. I'm sure I'm massacring these numbers, but it's the concept that I'm trying to push. So that's why I said in order to form a fraudulent block, you have to outprocess the entire rest of the network, and you just can't do it. Now you might be asking yourself, okay, if you own 25% of all hashing power, can't you just wait approximately 40 minutes and then form a fraudulent block? I don't know the answer to that. I feel like it's no, but I don't know why. I also feel like a couple years ago somebody explained it to me on the forums. I honestly do not know why. It might have something to do with like agreement of the rest of the network, or they have to verify your work or something. I don't remember. If somebody knows, leave it down in the comment section. So let's have some fun. Okay, I'm mining Aetherium right now, and like I said, I'm running about 160 mega hashes per second, as they call it, which is million. So what do? You fire up a bunch of computers, cross your fingers, and hope that you solve a block within a reasonable amount of time, because you have to be the one individual person who solves the block to get the block reward, which is some Bitcoins. Well, at my current speed, mining Aetherium, it would take, on average, 385 days to generate one block, to be the winner who just randomly, gets the hash that's 0.00000 whatever. Okay, cool, it qualified. Boom, I solved the block. So that's stupid. So what you do is you mine in a pool of people. So like we'll say 1,000 people get together at a given pool, and they represent 10% of all processing power in the whole entire Ethereum network. I have no idea what the time interval is for Ethereum. Let's go back to Bitcoins. So you're 10% of the entire Bitcoin network with just your pool. So about every 100 minutes, because it's 10 minutes on average between every block formation, you'll get a reward, and then they just split it up by who did the work. Instead of literally giving it to the person who solved it, they don't care. They're just like, okay, who was working on this block? There you go, have a payment. Well, the problem is, how did they prove that you were doing legit calculations? It's not just on the honor system where you're like, okay, how fast was yours running? Okay, and how long was it on? Cool, self-reported, gotcha. Hell no. What they do is they take the actual difficulty and just reduce it by a scale of like, I don't know, probably 100 million, probably something in that neighborhood. So then on average, you'll do something called a share, which is just a proof of work, as they call it. You're proving that you did the work. It's just much easier. So my rig will get a share done like, oh boy, at least like 2,000 or 3,000 a day, at least. So, honestly, I've solved like 4 blocks or mini blocks, shares, whatever, proof of work jobs, whatever you want to call it. I've solved like 4 of them in like 8 seconds. That's not the norm. I think the typical interval it shoots for is probably closer to like 15 seconds, maybe 30 seconds. Because if the block gets formed while you are processing and you try to submit it, it will reject it. And then you don't get paid and you wasted time and electricity. But it's like a couple seconds at this point, so whatever. And a lot of the mining algorithms will automatically adjust the difficulty so that it's absolutely ideal. So that's fantastic. So it's like, okay, you did 1,000 shares, you did 3,687 shares, you did 10,000. Okay, so we just got in, oh, what is it right now? About $55,000 US every 10 minutes are created in Bitcoin. So they'll say, okay, let's take that $55,000, except in Bitcoins, and split it up to everybody. Okay, let's pay everybody. There you go. So then, over a day, a week, a month, you can have predictable, consistent income instead of just, oh, did we by sheer luck solve a block today? I guess not. Oh, I guess I'm not getting paid. And oh, look, we solved 3 blocks almost in a row. We're rich. Nobody likes variance, okay? They like predictability. You got to pay off these cards and pay your electric bill. So now let's talk about how to actually mine Bitcoins. Now, I said ASICs are the only way to go in the Bitcoin network because nothing even comes close. I mean, just on sheer electrical usage, I think ASICs are at least 1,000, if not 10,000 times more efficient than the most efficient graphics card that exists. So people say, yeah, but I got a GTX 1080 Ti, so, it's a $700-800 graphics card. It's got to be able to compete a little, right? Like $1 a day. No. How much would it make per day on the Bitcoin network? 0, except it's a negative number because you would lose money on electricity. No matter where you are in America, it's just not efficient enough. That's why Aetherium and other ones like it were invented. They're more fair. So let's focus on that. When people say, I'm going to build a cryptocurrency mining rig, or even if they say they're going to build a Bitcoin rig, they're not literally mining Bitcoin. They're mining something else that's actually mineable. So what you usually do, if you saw my last video, which now's a good time to pause and go check it out, you just stuff a bunch of graphics cards onto a motherboard, or use a ribbon cable to get them off the motherboard because that kind of heat density would melt them. Get a big old, 1,000-watt power supply to run them all, and just run the graphics cards at nearly 100%, just doing nothing but hashing algorithms and proof of work, shares, all day, target a pool, there you go. And then, to boot, you start turning off like the sound card, disable certain USB ports, disable features to save a couple watts here and there on the motherboard, get the most efficient processor, maybe take it from like 3 gigahertz and underclock it to 0.3 gigahertz. Or limit its maximum power state in Windows. That's a lot easier. Just limit it to the first 2 C states. And then get like low voltage RAM, and instead of 4 sticks of 2 gig, you get like 1 stick of 8 gig. All these little tiny power saving, heat saving things, and you just build the most potato computer and then put like Pixar rendering server level graphics cards onto it. And it's the most lopsided thing I've ever seen. And just some garbage, hard drive or something, or even just a bootable flash drive running Linux. There's all different methods, all different setups, but at the end of the day, you just end up running a mining software and target a pool, usually, and ta-da, you make money every day. So how mining ties into I want to send somebody money and Bitcoins are a thing that exists is those people that are, quote, mining the Bitcoins, they're making money and they're getting paid to maintain the network. They're all collectively constantly forming blocks which contain the transactions. So why would they do it for free when electricity is really expensive? I mean, literally, my mining rigs all together take like $40 to $60 per month in electricity by themselves. Well, altogether cumulatively, I should say. And an ASIC, those things are 1,200 watts all day. I mean, they run hot as hell. Oh, and then typically you have to offset the heat with cooling or vent them outside, or there's all kinds of creative ways. So yeah, there had to be motivation to maintain the network, and there you go. You get 55 grand every 10 minutes to whoever solves the block. And that's why the network runs itself. Everybody just runs this open source client and open source miners, or a couple closed source miners. Different software, different miners, whatever's out there, whatever currency you want to go after. And that's it. If people don't like something, they reject it. And there is like a governing body kind of for Bitcoins, but it's more like a group of developers. And I don't know if you've been watching the news lately, but they don't agree, which is why Bitcoin just went through what they call a hard fork. A bunch of people were like, no, this is the right way to solve a problem with the network. And other people said, no, this is the right way. So they both did it. And now you can spend Bitcoins that were from before the fork in both networks. It just took the blockchain database, which is a string of transactions in a chronological row, and forked them into 2 paths. And those paths can't talk to each other, so if you spend stuff in one path, you can spend it again in the other one, which is why some people got behind it. I think they should have just gotten together, but it just goes to show people can do whatever the hell they want. Nobody runs Bitcoins. It runs itself. The people mining it run itself. So if a government says, nope, you got to shut down Bitcoins, who do they even call? There's nothing. There's like the Bitcoin Foundation and they have almost no power. They don't run the network and they have no influence over it other than suggestions. And some of the developers of some of the code are members. But then if somebody disagrees, they can take the code, recompile it, tell people to use it, and you vote with whatever software you install. So the Bitcoin network right now, it would survive a world war. The number of computers needed to maintain the network safely, I think it's quite literally 3. Or I think somebody did some calculations and for some reason it's like 8, and right now it's like 100,000. So we would need like a worldwide internet outage, and even then when it came back on, the miners would just fire right back up. So the network can't be shut down, can't be destroyed, can't be blocked. There you go, value. That's why Bitcoins are doing so well. That is inherent value, safety, and every other benefit. Now you're probably thinking, okay, so I mine Bitcoins, what the hell do I do with them? Well, you could head over to kraken.com, which is what I use. There's a couple others. I can't remember them. It's like CoinDesk or something. That's another big one. I honestly like Kraken, but they'll sell it. You can use Bitcoins to buy US dollars. It's basically just a currency exchange, just like any other currency exchange, except they take Bitcoins. In fact, I think you can directly sell US dollars for euros on some of them. I know BTCE did that before they got shut down and the owner was arrested. I got my money out about a week ahead of time, which is hilarious. I lost 45 Bitcoins at Trade Hill, though, so don't get too excited. The modern price of that is, I don't know, I'm going to cry if I calculate it. Too late, did it in my head, $200,000. I willingly sold the other 40 for $5 each. That was like a year-long high. Bitcoins were going nowhere back then. Also, at one point, I owned 30,000 Litecoins. I don't even want to get into it. Look up the video about how I lost $1.21 million, and that was in a different calculation method. Adjusted for current prices, I've lost about $4 million. And now I'm broke as hell, and in all likelihood, I need multiple surgeries to fix some health problems. So that's awesome. But if you think Bitcoins are going to spike, 50 to 1 again, no. You'd be lucky if they double in the next year. So that ship has already left. If you did want to buy something and get in on the ground level right now, you can use Bitcoins. Buy them, use them, trade some cash for them, mine them, sell them for cash, whatever. Nothing wrong with that. It's just, I wouldn't hoard them and expect them to go up, 100 to 1. It's just not going to happen anymore. It's virtually impossible. But hot tip for you now. For under a penny a piece, you can buy burst coins. It's Bitcoin mining, except you use hard drive space. They use something called plotting, and it's a space-based proof of work where you would not be able to do it unless you had a hard drive, like actual space. So the proof of work is the space on your hard drive. You can't do it without space on your hard drive, which limits it. It's a valid proof of work. And like I said, they're under a penny right now. So if you had $50, I would go onto an exchange that sells them and buy, sit on 10,000, 100,000 of them, whatever it would be, and just sit on them for just about forever. It's a brilliant idea. The network's taking off. It's brand new. I intend to sit on quite a lot of them. So that's my last chance at making millions. Otherwise, my mining rig makes between $450 and $600 per month. So that's cool. Considering it only cost me $3,500, that's not bad. That's a pretty fast payoff period. And the typical payoff period for anything in any network is usually between 5 months and 12 months. So yeah, mining is pretty profitable if you've got a large amount of credit, which I do. I have no money, but I have a perfect credit score and I've got 40 grand in available credit on my credit cards. So there you go. So hopefully that explains Bitcoins completely. I wanted to get super thorough and not skip over anything, explain how every last thing works and everything that everybody always brings up that's a question or, well, how about this? Or why wouldn't this work? Or wouldn't this do this? I just wanted to address it ahead of time, so that's why this is such a long video. But hey, a 30-minute video completely explaining Bitcoins end-to-end and all cryptocurrencies, that's not bad. I think I did a better job than most other people. But I doubt I did a perfect job, so if you have any questions, leave them down in the comment section below. Now, as far as stuff like, well, how do I start mining? How do I build a rig? Okay, that will be maybe in the future. As soon as I get some money or a vendor that can sell me the right type of cards, I'll probably just make a video of me assembling an entire rig and how to configure it. And I've been working on computer hardware for a long time. I used to be the CIO of a huge company in my area. That is the head of the IT department. And before that, I worked IT at a hospital. So yeah, and I was the head of that team too. And custom builds and hardware tweaking is my thing. I've built hundreds of computers. So it's going to be a little bit more accurate than some idiot who built their own computer one time and then read some stuff on a forum. My computers and my builds are flawless compared to what other people are doing. So this would be the video you want to watch out for. So I'd say hit the subscribe button, but you're going to get bombarded by Magic the Gathering videos, so you better be into that too. But I don't know. If you want to catch those videos anyway, I refuse to put them on my third channel because then I'd have to tell you guys what it is, and I'm not going to do that. So just hit that subscribe button anyway. It'll be coming down the pipe. But I've noticed a lot of Magic people are kind of geeky, you know, IT, nerdy, technology, electronics kind of people. So this is kind of, you know, your thing a little bit probably. But yeah, there's a lot of interest in it. And, I totally forgot where I was going with that last point there. You can spend Bitcoins directly on, I believe, Amazon, for sure Newegg, because I've done that. And Steam, I believe they take Bitcoins as well. And quite a few other stores are taking Bitcoins because, well, there's no, fee. There's no credit card fees. Like for me to run a credit card at my shop, it's like 2% or whatever. That's ridiculous. I mean, I get that they have expenses, but guess what the cut on Bitcoins is? Nothing. I mean, to drop them to a US bank account, you're going to lose like 0.2% exchanging them for US dollars and then pay a wire transfer fee, but whatever. It's still way more profitable than credit cards, so a lot of companies that are very forward-thinking are jumping on it. And also, no chargebacks, no fraudulent stuff, no stolen stuff. It's the perfect system. So companies hear about it, they research it, and they're like, yeah, why not? I mean, I hate to say this, but back in the day, Macy's, I believe it was, they had so many problems with stolen credit cards buying electronic gift cards on their website because they did not have to verify the physical address, and they didn't even, like... It's a long story, but they had to verify every single purchase personally with a call center. That's how bad it got. Like a huge percentage of them were fraudulent. And Visa said, we're getting, so many stolen credit card, fraudulent transaction reports from you specifically in your website that now you have to verify them in person. I know that because somebody stole my credit card and tried to buy a Macy's gift card with it. And I'm like, I don't shop at Macy's. I'm broke. I'm down at the Goodwill if you're looking for me. It's down the street from the Macy's. And they're like, okay, we'll reject the transaction. We were holding them for 48 extra hours, so don't worry. Yeah, none of that crap with Bitcoins. You send it, it was you, the end. Simple. So yeah, in the next 10 years, you think just about every store is going to take Bitcoins? Maybe, maybe not, but a lot more. And I mean a lot more. It's going to become super mainstream. And like I said, in Venezuela right now, you want to buy something, you better have Bitcoins, you better have your smartphone on you. That is the problem, though. You got to have an electronic device with an internet connection to spend them. So there's that. That's not quite true. You can do some weird stuff with like QR codes and stuff and encryption codes, but it's not quite as convenient. But yeah, you can reasonably, for a relatively low fee, convert to US dollars and drop them to US bank account. Kraken currently charges $5 for the wire transfer, and banks usually charge between $6 and $20 for it. So if I'm doing $600 a month, I don't care too much about that wire transfer fee. I guarantee you I still care a little bit, but it's what is it, 3-4%? Or I can just spend them on Newegg or Steam. There you go. And I've made, 20 purchases at least with Bitcoins on Newegg. So yeah, it works. You can take Bitcoins and buy real stuff. It's a real currency. People really use it. Welcome to 2017. So like I said, if you guys have any kind of questions, leave them down in the comment section. I will be sure to answer them, and I will see you guys next video.